Today we're going over week 2, day 2 of the LCS Spring Split 2023. This was a bit of a stomp week, but, narratives are still building for a lot of these teams, so we'll still go over the games. And one of the games that was most anticipated, highly anticipated, and was hopefully going to be a hype game was first game of the day, which was FlyQuest Cloud9. And these are the two teams that looked the strongest coming into day 2 of week 2. And coming out of it, sure looks like one of them is the strongest. What do you think, Tucker?
Um, yeah, I think the thing about Cloud9 is that like there's I don't think we should read too much into this. Um, it was really not a great game from Cloud9. Like it was a blowout. There's no other way to put it. But FlyQuest just looks dominant, and I think that's like we talked yesterday. I think about I can't remember what game it was, but I remember saying you can take this at face value. I think that's also true here too. Um, you don't really have to dive into this and try and break it down to, well, why was this such a lopsided game? Listen, FlyQuest is just good. Cloud9 is also good. FlyQuest had a better game. Um, the only thing I really want to point out, the Amumu pick for Spica, uh, he was trolling and it worked. Um, and I think that's awesome that FlyQuest, and obviously rosters change, but that FlyQuest is able to do that and still have a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I mean, they're just super entertaining right now. Um, it was kind of a sloppy game from Cloud9.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, they achieved really nothing on objectives. The Baron was basically uncontested, and the game was really kind of in hand at that point. But regardless, it was pretty uncontested.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, man. I pointed out Prince and Winsome, but I also just want to say that this was a team gap from top to support,
Mm-hmm.
and that's okay. That's okay if you're Cloud9 because these games are going to happen.
Right.
If you see this again, probably maybe this week, then maybe you ask a question.
Yeah.
But you know what, dude, they're 3-1.
Yeah.
And
Nothing.
I think it's okay to look at it like that.
Yeah, I agree. Nothing too shameful about losing to the 4-0 team in the league. Um, I'll add on a little bit of my own thoughts and stuff here. This was the game. This was kind of Vicla's coming out party to me. I mean, this Silas was nasty. 7-1-3. I mean, he was putting work in. And this was I was kind of waiting to see about Vicla because we've seen Prince. We know Prince can dominate. Prince can do his thing, but I hadn't seen a lot out of Vikla yet, and this was his game to really take control, and I thought he played really well. I really like the Lux pick here on support. Really just counters what C9's trying to do. You've got a Kali Vi and Fiora. They're trying to get in your face. They're trying to dive your backline. But if you have Caitlyn Lux, your backline's never getting touched. And I think you talked a little bit about the Amumu pick being troll. I agree, but I think Amumu's ult actually is really helpful at keeping his backline out of harm's way. So I thought it was kind of a creative pick into the comp, and I think Fudge has kind of reached his limit here on the Fiora pick against a player of equal skill in impact. So I think Fudge can dominate. He can pick Fiora and dominate lesser teams, lesser players. Um, and it's kind of funny. We'll see in the next game. I'll refer to this point that I'm making in the next game that we talk about. So yeah, that was really all my thoughts. I was not expecting a stomp of this caliber out of from FlyQuest onto Cloud9. It was still a 30-minute game, but boy, did FlyQuest look good and cemented themselves as the first place team in the LCS this week. So props to them, kudos to them, and yeah, Cloud9 will bounce back. I still think they're probably the second best team right now. So
Yeah, safely.
yeah, moving on to Dignitas, Evil Geniuses here. I mean, what else is there to say anymore? We've already buried Dignitas. I mean, there's just nothing here. This team's dead in the water. We're gonna say it probably this week coming up. I mean, maybe they get a cheap win, off some bad teams, but this is bad. And the point that I was making about Fudge's Fiora pick against, an equal skill player in Casante. Someday does the same thing here, picks Fiora into Casante, but you notice the difference. This is just skill. This is just talent. Armut has done nothing since coming over from Mad Lions in Europe. It's probably one of the worst import slots I've ever seen in North America. I mean, you get Zeri Lulu and you still can't win a lane. This is just it's embarrassing for Dignitas, and I just don't think that they're going to mount to anything at all. And it's honestly kind of just a waste of my breath to even fucking talk about this team. It's shameful, and I'm tired of seeing them play. And I wish they would just call it quit. Either revamp the whole roster and bring in 5 fresh players so I can watch something maybe resembling a team, or just forfeit the rest of your matches because you're just wasting everybody's 27 to 40 minutes of game time here. So JoJo looked good on Azir, by the way. He might be back. He might be back. But over to you, Tucker. What were your thoughts on this game?
Yeah, I did. You pointed it out. JoJo's Azir. Yeah, that was the difference. And that really, I don't believe that won the game for them. Because I think they won before they walked into Riot Games Studios. Uh, but yeah, I mean that was a huge performance. I do also want to point out the Rakan pick from Vulcan. Um, that is kind of just goofy, but it honestly, I mean, it ended up working out. Um, I thought that was really enjoyable. Um, how long can we do this with Dignitas? I mean, I think you said it right. Either forfeit or get 5 new guys in there because this is stupid. And it's not entertaining.
hmm
You're right. You're wasting 25 40 minutes of your night
Yeah,
on this bullshit.
it's
Come on, man.
it's a
Like
bad product. It's literally a bad
it is.
product. If I was
It
right,
is. In
if I was right games, I'd have an intervention and I'd say, hey, you guys are killing our viewership numbers. Like nobody wants to watch this, so figure it
Well,
out.
and I think that you make a good point. You made this point yesterday. If we're gonna have to deal with this, and I think you made the same point about Dignitas, it would bring back relegation. If this is what you're gonna cut, if there's no stakes, then this is okay.
hmm
And I think that's the reality of the LCS.
Yeah.
If you're gonna allow this product to come on screen, yeah, this is what you get. They suck, and they're. You mentioned yesterday, well, Biofrost is. I don't care. These guys are awful. And I mean, you can even look down the team comp. You'd had Zeri and Lulu, and much like Golden Guardians on day one against FlyQuest, yeah, they made it. They didn't just make it look normal; they made it look like a laughable duo.
Yeah.
And obviously, we know that's not true, but these guys are bad.
Yeah.
So, yeah, man, I don't have a lot here. I'm over it when it comes to Dignitas. EG looked good, and you're supposed to against these guys. So
Right. Yeah. That's what it boils down to. I mean, you can look at this damage chart here and say like, "Oh, Jensen's in elo hell. He's stuck with 4 wards." Like, come on, dude. Like, he's playing Victor. Like, he's gonna get damage. So, I mean, it really doesn't matter. Doesn't really show much about anything that he played well. He went 1-3-1. He went the same as Santorin, just had more damage. So, that's a moot point. So, I don't want to hear any argument about that. And yeah, so that's all we have to say about Dignitas Evil Geniuses. We'll continue to shit on Dignitas all split long. Don't you worry. Don't you worry. All right. Third game of the day was supposed to be probably our second most hyped matchup of the day. Um, and before we get into the analysis or the breakdown of what happened in this game, which unfortunately is going to be probably shorter because you can see the scoreboard yourself, but there was a segment that Riot Games aired right before the game, hoping to, razzle the game up, hype the game up a little bit. Um, and in the aftermath, they have had to do complete damage control, roll out all kinds of statements. It's been bad. It was a bad look all around. I'm gonna throw it to you, Tucker, to kind of give us your thoughts and kind of explain a little bit about what happened here with this segment.
yeah, I think your allegiance, whether you like it or not, is to TSM and has been for most of your time, all your time, really watching League of Legends competitive, and specifically LCS.
Yeah.
So you understand the history well, significantly better than I do when it
Yeah.
comes to Doublelift and TSM. But honestly, I don't think that's important
Well, that's
when it
not,
comes to this segment.
and that's my problem was that's why it was so off the mark, was that it wasn't even about the history between Doublelift
No,
and
it was not.
TSM. It devolved into this just like hate like segment, like, and they made it like goofy. And let me break down what it was real quick, and then we can kind of tear it apart and break it down. So if you're unfamiliar with the LCS, Doublelift, formerly of CLG, formerly of TSM, um, formerly of Team Liquid as well, I'm pretty sure. When he played for TSM, this was TSM's golden era. It was 2016. They were winning every kind of NA, spring, summer, championships all around. They had like a 17-1 season. Like they were crazy. Um, he decided that he wanted to take a split off. So TSM let him. They brought Wild Turtle back. And then Doublelift said, no, 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 I want to come back for summer. So TSM was like, all right, you can come back. And then after that, it was just back and forth, cat and mouse phone games all the time with this guy. So the CEO of TSM, Reginald, said, fuck it, enough. You're gone. Goodbye. Got rid of him. And that kind of started this like hate feud between the two, because Doublelift's kind of an egotistical guy, and so's Reginald. Doublelift then eventually started dating Reginald's ex, who was the president at TSM, which meant Doublelift got to come back to TSM, which then started all these leaks and rumors, finally ending with TSM basically serving Doublelift a cease and desist because Doublelift was leaking basically workplace, very serious allegations of workplace harassment and abuse by Reginald towards TSM staff and employees. This was all very messy. It occurred on Twitter. It occurred on streams, and nobody. I mean, everybody was affected negatively by it, and it was just a bad look. I mean, it was ugly, and a lot of innocent people got involved that didn't need to be involved. And this was the direction that the LCS broadcast took to spin a narrative. Instead of talking about Doublelift and Bjergsen's history on TSM, how many championships they won, what the new blood of TSM is now compared to what the team was then, they just decided to do this half-ass shit recap of all the drama that I just explained, which is very detailed. And I mean, I didn't do it justice either. I mean, you really have to do look into that kind of thing, like spend some time on YouTube and Twitch and Twitter and stuff to really get the full scope and full picture. But they did it like this weird kind of like the Kermit the Frog sipping tea meme, like, oh, so much tea that Doublelift is spilling right now. And it came off so tasteless and so gross, and really just like, hey, we want clicks and views, not like, hey, get excited for this match that's coming up. So to me, it was disrespectful to a partner org mainly. I mean the whole segment was just, you know, all over TSM as a bad, organization. And these players on this roster, they weren't a part of it back then, and they don't deserve that kind of spotlight right now. I mean, I would imagine almost all the people that were involved in that at TSM have moved on and are in different positions or new companies or new roles. And even after the segment aired, I mean, after the game aired, Doublelift took to Twitter, Lena took to Twitter. I mean, it was even the Reddit. If you get the main League of Legends subreddit to side with TSM, you fucked up bad. You fucked up hardcore, because nobody likes TSM. I don't even like TSM, and I love TSM. So it's confusing. It's confusing times. But yeah, I mean that's kind of what happened. So Tucker, I mean, your thoughts now. You can take it away here.
Yeah, I got some things to say. And I kind of wanted to take a more of a kind of an attacking approach here. But I'm gonna try and give some measured thoughts. Um, I want to read a couple tweets here. Um, And the first is the statement from the LCS that was released. I want to say that yeah, it was Monday. So 3 days after this segment aired,
And
they wait
and
they waited for the weekend.
and let's not forget that they left their hostess, their I forget the word, their monologuer, left her out to dry for 2 days,
Yeah,
3 days.
let her get shit on.
She had to come out with an apology before LCS actually backed her up, and
Yep.
she was getting torn apart. So go ahead, read
Yeah,
their
yeah,
famous
and we'll
apology.
get there.
Yeah.
So here's your tweet from the LCS. Before last week's match between TSM and 100 Thieves, we aired a segment on the LCS broadcast that reviewed the long history between Doublelift and TSM. That's not what happened at all. And back to the tweet. We hope the piece would highlight a key narrative of the match. Doublelift's first match against his old team after returning from retirement in an engaging way for fans. Unfortunately, the segment did not meet our own standards for content, and for that we apologize to present and former TSM staff and players, Doublelift, and the LCS community. This was a miss from us, and moving forward, the LCS will apply a sharper filter to our editorial segments. The LCS broadcast is a team effort. We make mistakes on the broadcast. It's not the fault of one person. Ultimately, we are the ones accountable for the content of our shows. As a valued member of the LCS team, Gabby continues to have our full support, and we sincerely regret the negative impact our misstep has had on her. You know, when you DM this to me, when I was at work on Monday, you know, this is damage control. That's all there is to it, and we've seen this across every medium, over the last decade or so. We've seen basically this exact statement. This is laughable from the LCS, and I'm going to extend that to Riot. You mentioned that it was deeply disrespectful to TSM, and I agree with that. But the fact of the matter is, Riot, these allegations were so serious, and clearly there was some merit to them because they did an investigation into him, an investigation into the owner of one of their partner organizations, and arguably the biggest one. It's TSM. It's so storied, and the history for them is back from the beginning. To air that segment and then try to spin it 3 days later after you've left one of your hosts out to dry across the weekend where nobody has anything else to do, so they're just going to shit on her for 2 days.
Mm-hmm.
For you to still try and spin the narrative that it was about the history between Doublelift and TSM, that's despicable. That's a horrible way to use your airtime, because that's not what it was. Like I said, that's not what it was. You made light of very serious sexual assault allegations. Sorry, not sexual assault allegations, but abuse allegations against the owner of this team that you investigated. So then we're gonna turn it into a bit. It's what it was. It was a bit where you had Latigris sipping tea over Reddit threads in 2023
Mm-hmm.
in front of 100,000 people. That's what you did. That's what you aired. But we're gonna come back and say it doesn't meet our standards. No fucking shit, Riot.
And I gotta say a couple things here. She is already probably one of the least liked members on the broadcast. She doesn't have a clearly defined role. They don't know what to do with her. They're trying new stuff out. So you can say, "Oh, let's give them a break. They're trying new content out." All it takes is one person to listen to this in a meeting, or read over the script, or look over something and say, "No, no, this is a terrible idea. Why would we do this? Why, why, why would we involve ourselves further in this mess? Like, this was handled. I mean, we did our investigation, but this was handled, outside of our control. Like, we don't want to stain our brand or our reputation anymore." And I'm so fucking sick and tired of the goddamn PR statements. "This was a miss from us. We missed the mark. We'll do better next time. Your feedback's important to us." And this is the same shit that Riot and the LCS has had problems with this whole time. This whole time they've had a company. This whole time they've been doing LCS content. They take 8 fucking years to get any message across. People didn't even fucking know that LCS was starting on Thursdays and Fridays at fucking 2 p.m. Pacific and 5 Eastern until like week 1, until like 2 days before the match. And to leave your hostess out to dry like that, I mean, of course she's gonna have like her co-hosts come, stick up for her, the people who are on the broadcast, like the actual broadcast team. But the company basically threw her out as bait at first. They said, "All right, take the brunt of this. This was your segment, so you got to handle this, and then we'll give you some support in a couple of days." And can you even call this support? I mean, this is just a nothing burger. It's a nothing burger statement. And, you know, Gabby LaTigers didn't do herself any favors in her statement either, because she apologized but also made herself out to be the victim, which some people didn't appreciate. And I think in that situation all you can do is apologize and try to move on. Um but let's not pretend that, you know, so another major factor of this was that Double Lift was upset, which is weird because you'd be like, well, the segment seemed to be kind of like supportive of Double Lift. Why would he be upset about this? Well, because he doesn't want his dirty laundry aired to a fucking national broadcast either. And he doesn't want, I mean, you can say, "Oh, he's done it before. He's done it on it." Yeah, but that was his stream. Not on a game day before a game where he's playing. I mean, I'm sure there was some emotion playing against the old org, but it's not the same players. It's not the same feeling. And they were just trying to capture some bullshit to hype this matchup. When the guess what? The match didn't need hyped up because TSM was what, 2-1 at the time, right? Yeah, 2-1. So this is just a good matchup. It's supposed to be a good match between two good teams, good orgs, but then they had to go and ruin it with this segment. And yeah, the bit part was was what was disrespectful and why everybody was like, "What the fuck is this?" Like, we don't people in esports like drama, but they don't like it fed to you in a weird, nonchalant way like this, especially with serious, allegations and shit like that. So, I've kind of said my piece on it. It's like I said earlier, it's fucked up when there's a main thread on the League of Legends subreddit that is in support of TSM in this endeavor. They were really just kicking him while they were down for no reason. None of these players had anything to do with it. None of the staff. I mean, it really it's just Reginald, and he's so far removed. It feels like nowadays from TSM league team that, after this shit, I wouldn't be surprised if he sold the spot and pulled the team because it was just pure disrespect from the company that you're partnered with. So it's just crazy. It's just crazy. It was the whole segment was bad. Nobody liked it. It was and it went on forever. It felt like too. Did you feel like it was a long segment too?
Yeah, and that's actually kind of what I wanted to talk about. Talk about next was, when we started talking about this, you went through the history of Double Lift and TSM. You did that. In the segment, that was a footnote. That was it. It was almost mentioned in passing. Hey, you remember when Double Lift played for TSM? Well, we got a little tea for you. That's what it was. It wasn't. Well, him and Bjergsen and they go way back and they played together and this was how they were at TSM and their level of dominance and on and on and on. No, it was, hey, so let's talk about some workplace abuse allegations on a national broadcast
And
when you're trying to when you're and I'm gonna use Latargus's words, when you're trying to tee up the most probably the second most exciting match of what should have been the second most
right,
exciting match of the day.
right.
You're trying to tee that up by offering a bit about workplace assault and abuse allegations. Yeah, man. And by the way, I do not think that Latigris is without blame either.
No.
Because she agreed to do the segment. Clearly, when they're in the production team room and they're in the writing room, she was involved and she went out on stage and did that.
Well,
And
yeah,
for her to lean into the bit the way that she did, and I understand, yes, and she mentioned this as a statement, and I agree with her. She was doing her job, and I recognize that. But this is one of those times where you stop down and say, no, we should not air this, or we
Right.
have to change the angle,
Yeah.
because having a segment about Double Lift in TSM's history, when it comes to actually on Summoner's Rift and the moments they had together, yeah, that's what you do. If you're Riot and you're LCS and you're their production team, you're actually better off not mentioning the abuse allegations at all, because
Yes.
that then it just opens up that can of worms. Um, I disagree with Doublelift that this was a straw man response from Latigris, because I it was a pretty generic apology. Um, and that's to be expected, because I think you made the point. What really can you say other than I apologize and move on? Um, but to accept responsibility, I think that was good of Gabby, and I think that's the right thing to do. But I don't. I'm gonna be honest with you. I don't think that's enough. I think that the LCS this week has got to say something
Yeah.
on stream,
Yes.
on broadcast, and say, listen, that's our bad.
Yeah.
And I do not have the Tigers do it, because then you're feeding into it more. You're
Mhm.
basically walking her out there on a leash and say, hey, go fix what you did.
Yeah.
And that
Well,
that is not how you do this.
yeah. So yeah, she's not without blame. She actually posted a tweet the day before the monologue came out. She said, "Working on my first monologue for, LCS. Can you guess what it's about?" So, I mean, yeah, she had a major hand in writing the monologue, no doubt. Um, and to anybody who's like, "Why is Double so upset?" He has never once used, these, you know, when he came out with that information, he took it very seriously. He was not like messing around or like just
Being
using
double
it.
lift.
Yes, he was not using it to like throw shade or whatever. He was like very seriously concerned and raising awareness and issues like, hey, people were being treated terribly. Like this was fucked up. And you can call him you can say, "Oh, well, that's hypocritical of Doublelift because didn't he still beg to come back to the team?" Yeah, he did. He did. At the time it felt a little petty because it felt like he was only using it because Reginald said he couldn't come back to TSM. And this was Doublelift's like first like semi-retirement. Like Doublelift was like out of pro play. He was like, I want to come back to the team. I want to come back to the org. I want to play again. And TSM and Reginald were like, no, fuck you. We've had enough. And you're dating my ex. Fuck you. Just shit like that. So to some, it felt petty, but to me, he's always been pretty genuine and serious about that side of the issue. So, any final thoughts on this, or shall we get into the actual game?
Yeah, I think we pretty much hit it.
Yeah.
Yeah, we hit it on the head. Let's get into this ass beating.
Yeah. We probably spent more time discussing that than talking about the first two games so far.
Well, but and we'll talk about this at the end. But these games, once again, we're on. This is the fourth straight day of a bad product by the LCS, and that is very apparent here in this game against TSM, and 100 Thieves.
Yeah,
So go ahead and get into it, Jack.
no problem. I think it will pick up next week, but we'll talk about that at the end. So, talking about the actual Rift experience for TSM 100 Thieves here. I hate TSM's draft. The Gangplank does nothing. I hate it. It's disgusting. Um, you give Doublelift. This is what we've been begging to see. We've talked about it. Doublelift on Zeri. This is his bread and butter. Busio looked great on Lulu. He was surprisingly well, playing really well in my eyes. And you give Bjergsen a pocket pick like fucking Zillion, and it's game over. It's game over in draft. It's GG's. It's clamps. It's over. This game didn't need to go 30. 100 Thieves beat the dog shit out of TSM. It was never close, and it never looked close. And if you're TSM, I mean, again, you lost to two upper echelon teams in the LCS, so it's not like you're without hope. But yeah, I mean, this game was a smackdown. It was a beating. I hate the solo gangplank pick. You've been making solo play weak side top, all split, and then you give him gangplank, a champ who needs resources and who can't he can't lane alone against fucking Cassante. I don't know what the fuck they were thinking. I don't know what the hell they thought this was gonna do. Maple couldn't do anything. I mean, so the Zillion Zeri combo's filthy. I mean, it's going to be a problem. And you can see, I mean, Tenacity, Closer, Bjergsen, none of them died. Busia never died. Doublelift's two deaths were literally just chasing kills, and he was popping off. He would get three before he died, or four before he died. I mean, it was just. I mean, it was. There's not much else to say. It was a beatdown. It was a beating, and I hope TSM never drafts like this again because I. I mean, I threw up a little bit in my mouth when the draft ended, and I saw what 100 Thieves had on the board, and I said, yeah, I mean, it's gonna be GG. This TSM can't play from this position. So yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say. I mean, the segment into draft was probably like the worst feeling any TSM fan could have ever had. Like I wouldn't be surprised if people turned it off before even watching. Like it was a tough day for the TSM faithful. So yeah, 100 Thieves, they dominated. They did what they needed to do. And I think Doublelift is going to be drawing a lot of Zeri bans, and I think Bjergsen will also be drawing a lot of Zillion bans. So that's what I have for the game. What about you?
Yeah, obviously we can talk about double lift and Zeri again, but I think you're right. They have to start banning it um, if teams want to see success against Hundred Thieves. The Bjergsen Zillion pick was just a lot of fun, and obviously we know the history there, but yeah, I mean the guy's just better on Zillion than just about anybody. Finally, I am vindicated in my hate for Azir mid. Unfortunately, it had to be Maple, and that doesn't come as much as a surprise. Unfortunately, when it comes to TSM, I still think that on paper, TSM's roster is very average, and that's why I do believe they're probably a fifth or sixth seed team, um, which is, I mean, you can't really expect much more. Yeah, you mentioned what I wanted to with the draft. The gangplank really kind of sticks out like a sore thumb, um, just because it doesn't when on week one day one. I don't remember who it was, but they did mention that they were interested to see if gangplank can act as a counter to Cassante. That has been that's yet to be seen. But we have to lean towards the side of no, it just absolutely doesn't. Um, Cassante is just too strong for a champ like Gangplank. Especially if you're playing weak side Gangplank, like you said, it doesn't. You're gonna achieve nothing. That being said, to put up one kill in 30 minutes, that's a bad look from Team Solo mid. Um,
They had two kills.
oh yeah, well yeah, but I don't count the that double lift death at the end.
Yeah, yeah. No, you're right.
So one legitimate kill is insane.
Yeah,
Um, yeah, man, really solid game from TSM. But this really comes back down to kind of like the EG game against Stick and Toss, the last match. Yeah, you're better. You're supposed to do this.
yeah.
You're not supposed to do this. Like you're not supposed to win in this fashion. But that says way more about TSM than it does about Hundred Thieves. Um, I do want to say, seeing this Hundred Thieves game, you saw two, and I do still believe that yesterday's game they had against Dignitas's. Um, is still the most complete game we've seen from a team this split. This is another one, but we're starting to see TSM we're starting to see who they are.
Yeah.
And you know what? That's just the reality of it. I do want to give a shout out to Busio, making me proud down there in support.
Yep.
He's huge. He is getting very comfortable next to double lift,
Mhm.
and that's what they're going to have if they do want to go out and win this split.
Yes.
That their success is going to flow through the bot lane. You still have Closer, who is an LCS champion. You have Bjergsen, who we all know about, and you have Tenacity. All three fantastic players, but your success does flow through the bot lane this season, and that is laughable with the state of 80 carry as a role. But it's double lift on Zeri, and if they don't ban it, they're going to win the split. So,
Yeah. And don't get it twisted. Doublelift is a great Lucian player too. I mean, he's a storied Lucian player.
yeah,
So
for sure.
I'm not sure. I think if you can force Doublelift onto something like Varus or Jin, where he just really can't have that much impact on the lane, or I mean later in the game, and you can kind of like lock him down and pick him out. He doesn't like playing the poke champs, the sit back and farm guys. He likes getting up in your face and he likes fucking you up. And if you can take that away from him, I think you can beat 100 Thieves. I think Tenacity is fine, but he can get gapped, and we've seen some bad games out of closer already this split. So yeah, this team still has flaws. They're probably a little bit masquerading as better than they are right now, but it remains to be seen. We'll see if they can pull something together. Never underestimate Bjergsen and Double F's leadership and ability to carry teams. So let's move on to the next game. Team Liquid Golden Guardians. Um, this was a game Team Liquid needed to get back into form here. They end the week, with the 2 a week, and they're back in the mix. And Core JJ's Blitzcrank is so filthy. It's so gross. It's so disgusting. He's so good on these types of champions. And I mean, I don't know what this Gragas pick was from Licorice. It's just so troll. It's so bad. This whole I mean, you've got Caitlyn running support with Dust like it's just so bad. It's so bad. And this game somehow made it to 40 minutes. Like imagine if Yeon is playing something other than Xayah. Like I don't even know why he's playing Xayah. Like to escape the Wukong ult, to escape the level. Like it's just. I mean, props to Liquid for beating a bad team, but like, dude, Liquid still has problems, and they're not complete yet, and they still have a ways to go. And I mean, I think this was just kind of a core JJ gap, honestly. And I will say one other thing. This is Aatrox is the type of champion Summit needs to be on every game. The fighters, the brawlers in lane. This is what he exceeds on. This is what he excels on. Give him the Gwen. Give him the Aatrox. Let him cook. Let him cook. But be there to back him up, which is why I like the Sejuani pick, because they just picked on Licorice all game. I mean, he was a weak target, and the Gragas pick is terrible. It's bad. So that's really all I have to say. Wasn't too impressed with either team coming out of this one. This was a rough one.
Yeah, no, I mean this the reality is this was a sloppy game from Team Liquid. Uh, Now again, this is very reminiscent of yesterday's game against FlyQuest for GG, where you're going to take them late because you have a pretty solid early to early mid game. Um, but then you get to minute 40, Team Liquid wins the game with Soul um, and a Baron refresh coming up. You know, it's they are the better team, and this is one of those games that you are able to actually see that you're actually able to see that Team Liquid is the better team because they do secure this one pretty handily in the end. I'd say over the last 5-6 minutes of the game, it was a finality that they were going to win the game. Um, yeah, Core JJ's Blitzcrank. I hate Blitzcrank players. But it's Core JJ, so it's hard to hate him. Um, Really solid game, I would say for the players. It was a little sloppy overall, like you mentioned, but I wouldn't be too concerned as a Liquid fan because they are 2-2 now. They got two wins that they needed. That frankly they should have gotten against Immortals and GG.
Yeah.
They did secure them.
Yeah. Hey, a
Yeah,
win, a win is a win.
a win is a win in this league, I think. In any league, but specifically here is with some of the talent you're playing against. Just get a win, and you look forward to next week.
Yeah.
But yeah, let's jump into the last game, because that's gonna be a pretty short recap, to be
Yeah.
honest with you.
Yeah. I mean, a win is a win because these are all best of ones, and I think it's like top 8 go to playoffs. So I mean, like, honestly, like, as long as you're not like dead last, like, you're going to playoffs. So like, yeah. I mean, yeah, you can talk about how dumb that is, but we'll just roll into the next game and then finish out. So, um, what the fuck, CLG? How the fuck do you lose this fucking game to goddamn fucking immortal? Props to Revenge, Ablaze Olive, and Tactical. This is the type of game that I thought Ablaze Olive was capable of having. Um, I'm begging teams to stop picking Aurelia mid. I'm on my hands and knees crying, begging, pleading. Um, you pick Maokai and then you go full AP. You're just trolling on that. And you took Tactical off Draven, and he actually looks like a fucking actual decent AD carry player. That's crazy, huh? Kenvy's Kindred pick was pretty cool to watch. There was a moment around like 7 minutes in the game where they tried to set up a dive bot, and they actually catch Kenvy's Kindred in going for blue or something, and Contracts wasted all on him. Flashes, hits him with everything. Somehow, by the grace of God, Kenvy survives and manages to leap over the wall, where Palafox probably could have flashed over and gotten the kill, but doesn't for some reason. And in the meantime, that Contracts and Palafox are chasing Kenvy's Kindred, Tactical just fucking flashes and kills Poom for first blood. Poom had a shit game. This was a terrible game on Lulu. And Luger actually tried his absolute hardest to fucking bring these guys, these four bozos out of Elo hell. He's dragging their corpses, kicking and screaming, but he just didn't have enough in the tank. Revenge had a really solid game on Cassante. I was happy to see that. Um, I like Revenge. I think he's a serviceable player. I think he has a place in this league. I He's been on Immortals for a while now. I think just like the rosters they put around him are just pretty bad, and I don't think he'll ever be elite or upper echelon. But yeah, I mean, it was gross. It was a gross game. If you like team fights, this was the game for you, because boy were they skirmishing at every objective. And Immortals just has some terrible shot calls late. The Baron call. Baron's at like 2K. They have two people in the pit, and Kindred's at like half health, and he has to pop ult, and then they still like lose Baron to Luger. It was a mess. Immortals got it together around dragon fights, but I mean, you got to clean it up around Baron. You can't be taking those picks, those fights. You can't be risking your lead like that in games like this. So they almost threw at that Baron. It was a disaster. It was disgustingly bad. So, but yeah, Ablaze Olive played really well. I thought he had great positioning on his ear, and I'm proud of Tactical for bouncing back on a real champion and a real pick that's not Draven. So, your thoughts?
That this is unironically probably the most entertaining game of the day. I mean, I know I didn't expect it. I'm sure you didn't expect that either. But I think that we kind of have really the most to talk about here, game wise, of the day. Being Immortals and CLG was definitely unexpected, at least for me. Immortals is still bad. I like that. That's just the reality of this. And you're right. You saw it around objective play. But I don't really actually have much on CLG. This is a lot more about Immortals. You're right about Revenge. He's kind of your Jamal Crawford, your Patrick Beverly, your guy that's there. He's gonna perform. Um, the only difference is that he's a starter, and those guys are sixth, seventh men
Mm-hmm.
on a bench, and I
Yeah.
think that's and maybe that's who Revenge is. But the reality is this is a 5-man league, um, and he cemented himself as just a solid player up top. Good game from him on Cassante. The story of the match, I would say, is probably Fleshy, who was all over the place with the Nami Imperial mandate. Um, yeah, I mean, huge from the bot lane, really. Huge across the board, but really impressive from Tactical and Fleshy. I'm not sold on Tactical because you're right. You take him off Draven and he looks like an AD carry. That's true, but he, he's not. He is not. He's not without fault in this game too. But that also just comes down to Immortals being uh, having a tendency to make some mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
At the end of the day, CLG probably isn't very good, and that's my bad. I will take responsibility for hyping them up.
Number one
Um,
CLG fan over here for the split. You're
yeah, but you know
you're
what, man?
riding
That
that
those
future.
first 2 days were fun for them,
Yeah.
and that is not something you can hang your hat on and say, well, at least we'll always have week one of
Week one.
2023. Um, but if CLG is ever gonna want to do anything, uh, like over the course of a split, you have got to win these games.
Yeah.
Because you win this game, you're 3-1. You're
Yeah.
actually you're probably what, third,
Yes. Well,
fourth
yeah,
maybe.
tied. Yeah.
Yeah, in the league after 2 weeks, that's a pretty good spot to be in. And say you're 2-2, middle of the pack, um, and you played a pretty shitty game against an Immortals team that tried to give the game to you a couple times.
Yes. And
Um,
and this is and it's especially bad to lose a game like this because Immortals is your competition when you're fighting for a lower tier playoff spot. I mean, this game could come back to haunt CLG very much so. And this is not it. We've kind of given some teams a pass, like we're giving TSM a pass for losing to Evil Geniuses and 100 Thieves in 1 week, But this is a game where if you're CLG, hell yeah, I'm fucking worried. Yeah, I'm concerned. You can't be losing games to an 0-3 team in Immortals. This is insane. This is crazy. They looked lost, out of sorts, and I mean, I don't know I don't know. I don't know what the early pick was. I don't know what their thought process was with this draft and with this game. I mean, they just maybe they thought it would be a cakewalk. I mean, for fuck's sakes, they banned the Draven. Do they think that's all tactical can play? I don't know. I'm at a loss for words, and I'd rather stop talking about these guys. So, do you have any thoughts? Oh, and Fleshy did play a good game on Nami. I'll give him some credit.
yeah, no. I'm pretty much cleared up on thoughts. Really, really, I'm gonna go ahead and move on if you're done with the game.
Yeah, yeah, I'm done. Yeah.
Um, yeah, I mean, I don't think we really should understate how just poor the product has been over the first couple weeks. Um, and we have no flesh in the game. Um, that's that's the crazy part about this is we're able to I'm able to just come out and say this. Um, not a lot of fun the first couple weeks. And now, but you are seeing some teams play some scrappy League of Legends, and I think that's where you're kind of finding your entertainment value. Like Immortals right here on the last game. They played a fun game of League. We don't think that Immortals is capable of that, but the reality, these guys do play professional League. They're capable of that. You just don't see it very often. Um, we have not seen that out of Dignitas. We have seen something out of Golden Guardians, but that more just comes down to their strengths in the early game, because they just get shit on in the second half of games, and that's not fun to watch. Yeah, I this week I really would just like to see some competitive games. I would like to see a 40-minute game where they're just beating the shit out of each other, um, a couple times this week, because that's what I'm here to watch, man. I'm here to watch the moment that complete the game's over. I'm here to see that moment. We really have not seen it yet, um, over these first 20 games. So that's really my thoughts. I want to go ahead and get in my ass beating of the day and my we'll see of the day.
Mhm.
Ass beating of the day is easily TSM against 100 Thieves.
Yeah.
That was despicable. Um, and then my will see, and I'm going to go with my will see of the week,
Okay.
is Team Liquid.
All right.
I'm not sold. I'm not sold. They had 2 wins against Immortals and Golden Guardians, but we will see. I'm not sold at all. I would like to see kind of if they can clean up the draft when it gets into when we get later into the round robin.
Yeah.
Um, that's really all I have
Okay.
for the week. Those are my two call outs.
All right.
And so yeah, I'll throw it over to you to wrap us up.
All right. So we actually hopefully have a good week this week. We're looking at TSM C9 first game of the day tomorrow. It might be a C9 beatdown, but I'm still looking forward to it. This is a classic rivalry. And then we're rolling right into FlyQuest Evil Geniuses, which is another big test for FlyQuest. FlyQuest has a big week. They're playing EG, then they're playing 100 Thieves, day 2. If they come out 2-0 this week, I think it's time to just kind of let them run the league. I mean, if they come out 2-0, that's dominant 5-0. Um, the rest of the games later are not the greatest. We got Immortals Dig, CLG Golden Guardians, um, TSM CLG day 2. So we'll have another rivalry game, and then EGC9. So I think we're gonna have a lot of top heavy good games, and then a lot of bad bottom heavy bad games. Um, Do you want to do predictions for day one, real quick?
Yeah, let me jump over and pull that schedule up,
Okay.
um,
Who are you
and we
taking?
will go ahead.
I can read them to you as well if
Okay,
you'd prefer. Who you taking? TSM C9.
Cloud9 easily.
Yeah, I think we're both on board with that. It's probably gonna be a Cloud9 sweep. FlyQuest Evil Geniuses.
You know, I want to take the upset, and I'm going to. I'm calling Evil Geniuses to take the win here.
Wow. You stole my spotlight. I was gonna do that. I
Hey,
was I was gonna take the
great minds,
upset.
Jack. Great minds.
Uh, if it, my heart says upset, my head says FlyQuest is gonna beat the dog shit out of Evil Geniuses. Team Liquid versus 100 Thieves.
So we'll dive into the draft obviously after the game happens. I think this game depends heavily on the draft.
I agree.
At face value, I'm going to take 100 Thieves. If they slip up in the draft and they make some decisions that I don't agree with,
Mm-hmm.
then yeah, I could see Team Liquid probably handing this game to themselves. But I think 100 Thieves is probably going to win this one.
Yeah, I will say Core JJ knows doublelift quite well, so that might be a weapon used against him. But yeah, I agree. It's gonna be a draft. Fuck it, I'm gonna take Team Liquid.
Okay.
I think they're starting to get on track here, and I think this is a game that 100 Thieves drops because they're frauds. Uh,
Yeah.
CLG Golden Guardians. These we can go rapid fire because these games are dog shit.
I'm going to give CLG the win here.
I'm gonna take Golden Guardians.
Okay.
Immortals and Dignitas. I think we're gonna be on the same page with this one. Go ahead.
I'm taking Immortals.
Yeah, it's an Immortals sweep, and fucking watch out, CLG, because if they drop the game to Golden Guardians, Immortals wins. They're right
Yep.
there. So that'll do it for the show. We'll wrap it up there. Thank you everyone for watching. Shout out Charlie, that league guy. 3 viewers, appreciate it. And we'll be back next week, same time, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, 9 p.m. over here on Twitch, and then we'll get the videos uploaded to YouTube about an hour after the broadcast. So appreciate your support, everybody, and have a good evening.
Yeah, yeah.